When someone says environmentally friendly vehicle, usually the first thing that pops to mind is an EV, maybe even a hybrid gasoline vehicle. But one of the most eco-friendly vehicles around is a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle like this 2022 Toyota Mirai. So what makes this one so special? And what's it like to drive a hydrogen fuel celled car? Well, let's go and find out. So what is a hydrogen fuel cell? Well, to put it very simply, it takes hydrogen gas and combines it with oxygen that's in the air all around us. It produces electricity for the electric motor that's in the back powering the rear wheels. And the only byproduct of this is H2O, water. The electric motor produces 182 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque. So essentially, a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle is an EV, but instead of storing the electricity in a big and heavy battery, it just uses chemistry to produce the electricity when it's needed. But speaking of batteries, it does actually still have a 1.24 kilowatt hour battery just behind the rear seats. That battery is only there to aid the hydrogen fuel cell when you stomp on the accelerator pedal. So technically, you can call this car a hybrid vehicle. That battery is aiding the primary power source, which is the fuel cell, just like in a traditional gasoline hybrid vehicle. To drive, it's just like an electric vehicle. You get a really nice burst of acceleration right off the line, but the acceleration does start to taper off after about 70-ish kilometers an hour. That's about 35 miles an hour, if I have my conversions correct. And the reason for that is because a hydrogen fuel cell can only produce so much electricity at a time. That's why the battery is there to help it when, again, you mash your foot on the accelerator pedal. So while you're not going to be getting Tesla Model X dual motor or Ford Mach-E GT type of performance out of this car, it wasn't meant for that. This was meant for a city commuter type of vehicle. And you will be stuck in a city because the biggest problem with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles is the complete lack of an infrastructure. Here in Vancouver, there are only 3 hydrogen fueling stations. And even though this car has a claimed range of 647 kilometers, if you want to take a trip from, let's say, here to Calgary, you're probably going to be running out of hydrogen midway through that trip. That's why the Toyota Mirai is only really sold here in BC as well as Quebec for Canadian markets, and in the United States it's really only sold in California and in Hawaii because that's where the biggest concentration of hydrogen fueling stations are. Once you do find a hydrogen fueling station, refilling the Mirai takes less than 5 minutes. You just lock the high pressure hose onto the car, push some buttons, and it begins refueling. But don't expect to save money at the pumps because hydrogen fuel costs pretty much the same as gasoline at the time that I'm filming this video. In Vancouver, hydrogen is $13 per kilogram. That's $13 Canadian. The Mirai can hold 5.6 kilograms of hydrogen. So with some quick maths, the Mirai will cost roughly $73 Canadian to refuel. During my time with the car, I used hydrogen at a rate of 0.97 kilograms per 100 kilometers, or 2.14 pounds per 62 miles. So while you won't be saving money with this car, at least you'll be cleaning the environment as you drive along. The air that's going into the fuel cell gets cleaned before it gets used. So that's something that traditional gasoline and electric powered vehicles can't claim. As for the driving dynamics, Again, it feels just like an ordinary electric vehicle. Not a sports electric vehicle by any means, but just a really good daily commuter electric vehicle. Steering is on the slow side, but it doesn't need any sort of fast steering like how you would get in a BMW M4, for example. The body is well composed through corners, it doesn't roll too much, and the brakes are nice and strong. Speaking of which, it does have regenerative braking, and there are two modes. The standard mode is just like lifting your foot off the throttle pedal in a normal gasoline vehicle, so you would coast but also slow down just a teeny tiny bit. And the other is a stronger regen braking mode. However, it is not strong enough to allow for a one pedal mode. The 2022 Toyota Mirai rides like a Lexus, and that's because it uses a modified Lexus LS platform. Though this limited trim has 20-inch wheels, the thick tires and well-tuned suspension give the car a plush but not floaty ride. You can feel that the car drove over a small pebble, for example, but it's not a harsh transition into the seat. As for noises, it's like an EV. You may hear the fuel cell make a whooshing noise under hard acceleration, but it's not overly intrusive into the cabin. Neither is wind and road noise. There is a faint whisper of wind noise at highway speeds from the mirrors, but most of the sound is tire noise, which is not too loud and obtrusive into the cabin. Although the Mirai is a big vehicle from the outside, on the inside it's a little bit smaller. Actually, no, it's quite a bit smaller. So in terms of legroom, it's actually okay. I have more than enough for my 6'4" height. Headroom is okay, but I did lower this seat to its lowest position, and yet it still feels like the roof is caving in on me just a little bit. But at least it's not black in color, so that's a good thing, because that would make it feel even more claustrophobic. It's the back seats that really suffer from a lack of space. So behind my 6'4" driving position, as you can see, I have no legroom whatsoever. My legs actually feel a little bit squished behind my seat. And speaking of feeling squished, obviously headroom is extremely tight. There is an indentation in the roof, the headliner specifically, but it's still not enough for someone of my height. And I feel really bad for anyone that has to sit in a center. Not only is there a huge center hump because one of the hydrogen tanks is right in the middle, but also this center seat is slightly higher up than the two outboard seats. So if you do have to sit in the center, you're really not going to have any space. You basically have to be a contortionist. But at least you do have some stuff to do here in the back. There's two USB ports, you have sunshades, and if you lower this little center console down, there's a little bit of storage here, your cup holders, and you have some controls for the rear climate as well as the heated and ventilated outboard seats. Back to the front, the interior design is actually really nice. I like the contrast between the white leather and the copper accents and even the gloss black plastics. While I'm not the biggest fan of gloss black, at least Toyota didn't use it for the buttons, for like the climate, for example. All of these are the flat black, so fingerprints and dust are not going to show on them as you use them quite frequently. But gloss black is used for the quick access buttons right underneath the infotainment system. However, I think it works. Again, not the biggest fan of gloss black, but I think it actually works this time around. The infotainment system is an older generation, not the newer generation that is found in the Toyota Tundra, for example, but it still works. The only thing is it looks really dated for such a technologically advanced car like this one. As for everything else, all of the controls are right where you expect them to be. Climate and heated and ventilated seat controls right here in the center. Your gear selector is right here, and it's very reminiscent of a Toyota Prius gear selector. Lights and camera views all on this side of the dashboard. And yeah, pretty straightforward. It's nothing too crazy in here like the, say, BMW iX, for example. So overall, I actually like this interior. It's just a shame that it's so compact compared to how big the rest of the car is from the outside. As for the trunk, unfortunately it does not have a whole lot of space. You cannot fold the rear seats down because there is a battery right behind the seats, and also the floor is not that deep because, well, there is a gas tank underneath it. So if you just lift this up, then all you have is just a space for some basic tools. So yeah, the Toyota Mirai is not that spacious. Hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are not cheap, but Toyota has managed to offer the Mirai at a substantially lower price than the Hyundai Nexo. The 2022 Toyota Mirai starts at $54,990 Canadian for the XLE, with this limited trim costing $76,750 Canadian. By comparison, the Nexo starts at $71,000 Canadian. Also, the Mirai and the Nexo are eligible for government rebates and tax incentives. Another incentive for American buyers is the prepaid fuel bill. You get a complimentary $15,000 hydrogen fuel credit that is valid for up to 6 years. This is unfortunately not available for Canadian customers. For the money, this fully loaded Mirai has everything from built-in navigation to wireless phone charging to a head-up display, heated and ventilated seats all round, and even a power rear sunshade. With all the features that it has, I'm surprised it doesn't carry a Lexus badge. On the outside, it has a sleek fastback design. The rear portion of the roof slopes into the trunk, but it's not a hatchback opening. Though the front does remind me of a fish every time that I look at it. That could also be because of the vivid hydro blue paint color. For safety, it is equipped with standard Toyota Safety Sense 2.5 Plus. This includes forward collision alert with automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning with lane keep, lane tracing, blind spot sensors with rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control, and surround view cameras. And in case you're wondering, the hydrogen tanks are made out of a carbon fiber and fiberglass reinforced polymer material. Toyota says that the tanks are designed to withstand up to 5 times the crash energy of steel. So in 2022, should you buy a hydrogen fuel cell car like this Toyota Mirai? Well, if you truly care about the environment and you don't mind paying $70 or $90 to refill the hydrogen tanks, and you live in a city like Vancouver or LA where there are some hydrogen fueling stations, then I think that this is totally worth it. It cleans the air as you drive along, it takes less than 5 minutes to refill the gas tanks, and it's actually really nice to drive, and it has a nice interior. But unfortunately for the rest of us, EVs are still the way to go at the moment. There just isn't enough infrastructure to support something like this. But maybe in the future, if governments and other auto manufacturers invest money into hydrogen fuel cell technology and, more importantly, hydrogen fueling stations, then I truly believe that this is the future of the automobile. Hydrogen is one of the most abundant elements in the entire universe. You don't need to mine for lithium or cobalt or some other materials to produce batteries, and it doesn't take half an hour to an hour to recharge them. But again, that's just the future. Hopefully it comes sooner than later. If you want to know more about this 2022 Toyota Mirai, I wrote a more detailed review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up here. And as always, I will see you in the next car or truck, or most likely it'll probably be an SUV. Probably not a hydrogen SUV though. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.